Watch the real-life program about exceptional destinies, remarkable opportunities, and unbelievable facts right now. As usual, he gives it a few turns and sounds of the past start travelling through the diaphragm. Live sound is mixed with vinyl and shellac. Naum Shafer owns about 30,000 gramophone records. Nobody in the world has such a great collection as he does. He is the person who preserves the unfinished story of sound. What will the voice from the past say? Does the waltz actually cure diseases? And what do bugs from India have to do with it? This is a yard of an ordinary 5-story house in Pavlodar. Autumn silence prevails. It is impossible to think that this house is filled with terabytes of sounds. Museum on the 2nd floor is open from 9 o'clock until 6 p.m. Here you can find anything from waltzes, drinking songs, leaders' voices, ballads of Akins, or Kazakh improvising poets and singers, Tuvan throat singing and hard rock. I collected music of all the continents and the best music of all the peoples of the USSR. It is natural living in Kazakhstan I could not leave without Kazakh music. I started buying gramophone records when I was 12 or 13 years old. In 1877, when Thomas Edison was trying to improve the telephone, he started singing loudly, picked his finger, became thoughtful, and in the end, invented a phonograph. Gramophone and the records appeared 10 years later. Naum says that the various kinds of records have been produced. They were made of zinc, rubber, wood, and even chocolate. You listen to it, admire it, and then eat it. However, the most common material for making gramophone records is shellac. Shellac is a natural resin secreted by female Indian bugs known as luck bugs. It requires cocoons of 4,000 insects to produce one record. You can see the complete musical culture mainly in the form of gramophone records on these shelves. It started from a wedding gift given to his parents. I hold this album with records very dear. I bought it from Bessarabia when I was 10. We were deported to Kazakhstan. He holds the source of his creative life in his hands. These are his first 30 gramophone records. You know, I didn't take any toys or other things. I held these records close to my heart. He had only the records and a limited number of things. Deportation is a word from Stalin's epoch. For the Shafer family, it meant saved life. Hitler killed all their relatives who remained in Bessarabia. It turns out that Stalin saved our lives, says Naum. Applause given to Comrade Stalin is the name of a gramophone record from his collection. Every exhibit here has its own history. These are vintage Russian waltzes. One of them is called Warsaw Women's Dream. On the other side there is Broken Heart. Look here. Instead of a label, there is an engraving on it. It is speed of 90 revolutions. It has one more feature. The membrane is not placed on the edge but near the center. Thus it moves from the center to the edge.
Еще одна особенность. Мембрана ставится не в начале пластинки, а ставится в конце. И она двигается от конца к началу.
A A vintage waltz was in the beginning. At the end of the 1940s, the Shafer family moved to Akmolinsk, where Naum studied at a music school. He played the piano there, and at home he played Schubert's sonates on the balalaika. He did not have any other musical instruments. Every spring, festivals for young students were held in post-war Alma-Ata. Naum Shafer was studying to become a philologist. Our university presented a few works including my evening waltz, which I wrote like a vintage waltz. It and composed it in 1947 at the age of 16. After that, Naum unintentionally heard a conversation. Composer Yevgeny Brusilovsky, the author of Kazakhstan's first national anthem, was asking a pianist where they had found that vintage waltz. I said, I composed this waltz 5 years ago. I winced even now when recalling how he turned his head, screwed up his eyes and sneered. Young man, why are you so shy? Amir Waves was composed by you too. After that, his destiny took a turn. He interested Brusilovsky, but since then he could not believe the young man. He invited him. He wanted to understand whether the waltz was just a coincidence. Shafer prepared for the meeting for half a year. I arranged my musical archive, added something new and brought him my musical works including Pechorin's Romance from Pechorin's opera, which I planned to write. Of course, I had not composed the opera yet because I was completely helpless in this regard. Nevertheless, I managed to write the romance. The composer was impressed by his talent and started preparing Naum for entering conservatoire. The composer insisted that he should dedicate himself to music. He even chose a new name for him. It was Nami Gitin. His mother called him Nami and her name was Gita. Nevertheless, Shafer became a literature teacher. Brusilovsky could not forgive his pupil for that. However, the composer Nami Gitin played to a packed audience. People ask which of my occupations, literature, music, or writing, I prefer. Now my memoir novel is about Brusilovsky is being printed. I can answer that, but being a composer is the most important for me.
Я отвечаю, что лично для себя я на первое место ставлю свою композиторскую деятельность.
Shafer's wife looks at the collection, which contains a lot of her favorite gramophone records. Once in Moscow, she decided to make her husband a gift. A waltz by Nami Gitin was recorded on a gramophone record in a studio, Natalia explains. When I heard the sounds of an evening waltz played by a real pianist from Moscow, I couldn't hold back tears. I was crying with happiness. I can't even explain how impressed I was. This is a different record because that one was not preserved. The performance is different too. However, the feelings are the same. They have been together for more than 50 years. After the wedding, they agreed that they would live on Natalia's salary and use Naum's wage to buy records to invoke memory and preserve the live sounds of the past. This record was made in the late 1950s. It is Salem Kalam Kas. It is pleasant to listen to young Sergei Bayev, recorded on a breakable gramophone record. Shafer visited remote villages where he looked for rare records. He gathered what was supposed to be destroyed after Stalin's death. The records mentioning the names of Stalin were being destroyed. I have a recording of Akin praising Stalin sincerely and subtly Dombra. Baisitova, our unique and amazing singer, sometimes mentions Stalin's names in her works too. These recordings were destroyed everywhere, but I have them.
Незаменимая, изумительная певица тоже иногда упоминала имя Сталина в своих произведениях. Это везде уничтожено. В моей коллекции это есть.
He has things which nobody else has. For example, he owns the first Kazakh gramophone record produced in 1935. Kenaz Kui, or traditional Kazakh instrumental music, is recorded on one side of it and Bal Brown is recorded on the other. When we were demonstrating our collection in Astana, it attracted Nursultan Nazarbayev's interest. I built my career in a paradoxical way, Naum says. He was a teacher, postgraduate researcher in science, professor and bricklayer of the second rank. In 1971, Shafer was sentenced to 1.5-year confinement under ordinary regime for spreading slanderous statements about the Soviet political system. In other words, Naum gave his brother books by Solzhenitsyn. The bricklayer's thesis was on building a prison toilet, which collapsed on the second day. Nevertheless, he received second-rank bricklayer's license. In prison, he planned the syllabuses and lessons on Russian music of the 19th century. He told his wife on what self-records was relating to the theme were. He also wrote love letters for the prisoners. He says that he was good at it. After he was released, he couldn't find work for a long time, but then he started studying at Dunayevsky's creative works. Shafer's special love and a whole epoch were made in the USSR. There are about 500 gramophone records of Dunayevsky's music in his collection. Probably this one is the most precious. Happy songs put you in a good mood. It is easy to guess the lyrics even if you don't speak French. This gramophone record appeared before its Soviet analogue. It was a rare thing. This is another one, the Choir of Christ the Saviour, the Church. We knew that the church was destroyed. Nevertheless, listening to the record, we could hear it. This gave the impression that not only art is indestructible, but human spirit can never be broken either. There are speeches of Soviet leaders, for example, a 5-kilogram report of Comrade Molotov, and gramophone records made in Nazi Germany. However, these vigorously marching soldiers are not related to the content. Strauss's waltz is recorded here. My father should be in shock. He had gone through Stalin's camps and had to hide these envelopes and records from him. Otherwise, he would have destroyed them. Shafer says that there are no good or bad sounds. They are a harmonious combination that makes a person cry, laugh, and even cures them. According to scientists, Polonaise by Aginsky eases headaches. Mendelssohn's March normalizes blood pressure. Beethoven's Sonata No. 7 cures gastritis, and the waltz helps get rid of insomnia. There are about 1 million cards. All the musical works are counted. According to the most conservative estimate, if we count the time that Shafer spent filling in the index cards, we'll find out that it took him 20 years without breaks for sleep or rest. I do not pay any attention to genres. I appreciate any fine work performed at high artistic level, and it is dear and close to me. It doesn't matter if it is a symphony or a mass song. Things which are close and dear to us make us stronger. Naum Shafer gave his collection, which he built up over 70 years, as a present to his city.